So now I want to go back to this question. Who do the two of you think should model the swag?
Well, one of the easier choices is one guy, one girl, because there's pretty even split.
Okay. But there's a growing non-binary community that's going to maybe it's like, yeah, we're always left out. Okay, got it. Yeah, we're being included, but we're always left out. All right, whatever. Okay. But we could get someone who looks a man who's a little bit femmy and a woman who's a little bit masculine. So we could cover that. Okay, so non-binary people, don't get you're all worked up. We got you covered. All right, go ahead. What else?
I mean, I guess one person of color at least, and a white person, I guess.
Well, here, let me show you this. Can you go to the next slide? Okay, so here, Chinese represent 18. This is Social 19 and World in Conversation. It's not Penn State in Conversation. We've talked with people in over 30 different countries around the world, including China, including India, including Indonesia, Pakistan, and Brazil. Okay? So, China is 18% of the world's population. India is 17.5%. And then you got to go all the way down to the U.S. and Indonesia. So, don't you think we should pick somebody from China or India?
Yeah.
Ideally, a Chinese Indian or an Indian Chinese. Well, hang on. Go ahead. I don't know. What do you think? Sammy, what do you think?
Well, yeah.
Hey, by the way, hang on. By the way, you understand? You understand what's going on here? You get that I am not saying I'm not telling anybody what to think. I'm not okay. We should do this. We should not. No, I'm just thinking through what some things are, just to think about. Because all of it. If you happen to be sitting in your seat or you're watching, and you're saying this is just nonsense. This doesn't matter. Well, that's because you haven't turned your brain on. Turn your brain on, man. These are really interesting questions. It's kind of cool. Who? How? How do you do this, right? The complexities of it. So should we get someone from, we got to do China or India. So which one do you pick?
We can only pick one?
I don't know. That's a rhetorical question. Wait, how about this one? It's estimated, and don't hold me to this number, but I found this research paper where someone said, it looks like about 15% of human beings on the planet directly, not like indirectly, but directly derive their ancestry from Africa, from black Africa, right? Because only about 80% of Africans are black. So it's from black Africa. So it's okay, 15%. Do we pick a black person? Why would we pick a black person and not a person who's Chinese? Right? And white people, the best that I could come up with very quickly, I didn't have time and I didn't see anything, is about maybe 10 to 11% are of European ancestry. So why pick a white person?
I mean, because there's white people in this class.
Yeah, but look at all the brown people in this class, man. Right? Look at all the black people.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe we just pick a Chinese person and an Indian person. The two highest. I don't know.
Statistically, that would make the most sense.
Yeah, if you want to do that, you could just do that. Or here, I got one for you. You ready? Now let's take it to another level. Go to the next slide. So 42 million, do you know what 42 million people do in the United States? Do you know what that represents? Do you have any idea? Anyway? Dude.
Are obese?
No. It's higher than 42, my friend, in the United States. 42% of people living in the United States speak Spanish in the home. 42 million people, I mean. That's 13% of the population. So maybe, it was like Julieta could have just picked herself. I'm assuming Julieta, you speak Spanish, right? Okay. So, 30%, and in Texas, it's 30% of Texans speak Spanish.
I mean, if we go back to the picture, you can't tell what language they're speaking in a picture.
All right.
I was about to say the same thing because, like, that's something that I think about a lot is because, like, when people look at me, they don't automatically think that's a Latina person, but I am one.
Yeah.
And so, like, with things like language or where you're from or nationality, like, people can't obviously see that about you. And so the one way we have to obviously show diversity is people that look different, and we can tell, like, oh, this person's a this thing. But with some things, you can't tell that by just looking at somebody.
Yeah, you can't tell. And it's okay, right? I mean, if you get, and look, and it doesn't really matter, but now I'm going to show you a couple things, all right? So you ready? We're going to walk through a couple of things here. Go to the next slide. Okay, so now, I went to the Penn State website, and I went to the admissions website, okay? And I just picked out some, just the first photos that people would see if they were going to apply to Penn State. And, you know, you go to admissions. The first one is like, become a Penn Stater, man. Right there. And that's the first photo. The woman in the white back there, you can't see it here. She looks a bit brown. She definitely doesn't look really white, but I don't know. Does anyone know her? She's probably, maybe you're in this class. Okay. So the very first thing you see, become a Penn Stater. Okay, you get this a brown person, black, maybe she's black, the woman in front. She looks like she's well, she definitely has black blood. What's interesting, by the way, we'll talk about this. Well, I'm not, so we're going to talk a lot about genetics in here. So I look at her and I'm like, okay, she definitely has sub-Saharan African DNA. But I don't know where she's from. She could be Afro-Caribbean, she could be black and white, she could be any number of things, right? Okay? Go to the next slide. Here's the next photo. Okay, so what do we have here? The guy at the top, or is it a woman? I can't really tell. Upside down. It's, okay, black. Another black person. Can't really tell in the back. No people of East Asian origin, unless this person right here is East Asian, right at the top. So I'm like, okay, hang on, did we miss out there? Okay, there's the next one. But we got more representation. This woman here, she looks like she's definitely white, but she also looks like she has some kind of East Asian ancestry. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. Oh, here we go. Right? So all this looks just like Penn State. It looks like this classroom, but does it look like Penn State? Okay, let's go to the next one. Oh, all right. So we get a white guy and another black woman, but again, you know, she's a little bit ambiguous, right? I can't really tell exactly where she's from, but she definitely has sub-Saharan African blood. Okay, next one. First to inspire, a story about a first-generation college student. Okay, she's Indian. Okay, awesome. Very cool story. All right, got it? I'm applying to Penn State. This is what I'm seeing. Next one. Oh, student life. This is Thon, I think, right? Is that Thon? Does that look like Thon? Kind of looks like Thon. I can't tell. Does it look like Thon to you? Kind of does, right? I'll say there's black, for whatever reason, the black community at Penn State. Are you involved in Thon at all?
I'm a freshman, so
Oh, you don't know? All right, get involved in Thon. Anyway, the black community has not Look, Thon grew out of the IFC and the PHC, okay? It grew out of white fraternities and sororities back in the day. And only about 20 years ago were they able to really sort of extract that from the white frats and sororities. Okay, so it's fine. So more and more people got involved. But the issue is, for whatever reason, students of color, in particular black students, have just never really jumped into Thon. Just haven't. Black students and brown students get involved in lots of things here at Penn State, but Thon isn't one of them. Okay, so there aren't many black students at Thon, but nonetheless, okay. But she's got the photo. Next one. Okay, then we have this woman. Kind of looks like a young Molly Countermine, if you ever had Molly. Doesn't it kind of, in a way? All right. So, Hang on, before you go one more. There's nothing else, right? Okay, so what do you think about that, about these photos? Go ahead.
It obviously shows like the audience they're trying to reach, and also
Wait,
like,
it shows what?
the audience that they're trying to reach, and also the foot they're trying to put forward. Like Penn State is trying to attract more people of color. Penn State
Yep.
is trying to be more inclusive, et cetera, et cetera. Because I mean, I've always known this because I've lived here, but like it's a majority white institution. Like I've always known this, and people automatically assume that about this place, and so they try to make an effort to attract different kinds of people because they want the statistics to look better and go up.
Well,
and also to like
wait, hang
help.
on. Is it just because we want
No.
statistics to look better?
No, it's not just about that.
Okay, what else is it about?
It's also about giving more people opportunities that they haven't had before.
Yeah.
And so about those two things.
It's also about, by the way, creating an experience, an educational experience that more reflects the world.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the cool things about this class. When you do, like, say, your World in Conversation dialogues, or you meet people in class, you have a much higher opportunity, greater opportunity to meet people who are not like you. And it makes it, it's just like you get that. You don't get that everywhere, but you get it here. So we also want that. Sammy, how about you? What do you think about these photos?
Well, the statistics that you showed earlier were fresh in my mind. I didn't really see anyone of like Asian descent.
You didn't see anyone of Asian. Yeah, East Asian, South Asian. Yeah, we didn't see it. Okay, got it. East Asian meaning China. South Asian with India. Uh-huh. What do you think about Penn State doing that? Is that like, do you like that? How's it feel? How do you feel when you see those photos? You as a white person, you're applying to Penn State and you go through these photos and you see all these black and brown people. Like, how does it sit with you?
It's fine.
It's fine. Do you notice it?
Yeah, I notice it.
And you think what?
Good.
It's good because?
Yeah. Because it is important to represent people.
Because, hang on, you're walking down the road of political correctness here, okay? You're walking down the road as I'm going to say the right thing as a white person, because white people, we've learned to say the right thing. Am I right on that? We've learned to say the right things. So go ahead. Why is it important? Because I don't know that it's important, actually. For me, I don't know that it's important. Why do you think it's important?
I think it's important. Where I grew up was like small town America. Mm-hmm. It was majority white. So from my perspective, it's important, even in pictures on the admissions site, to see people that look different than you.
So for you, is that a good thing? Is that like draw you to Penn State? Like, oh my God, I'm going to get out of my small town and I'm going to meet some people like Annabelle and like all sorts of other folks?
Yeah, like meet new people, find out people's different like backgrounds, see what experiences they've had, all that stuff.
All right, cool. Yep, I like that. Same here. That's one of the reasons I teach this class. It's a huge piece of why I teach this class. All right, so let me show you let's look at a couple other things here, right? Go to the next slide. So here's the population at University Park. Basically 65% white, okay? 10.5% international, which is mostly black and brown students, mostly brown students. By brown, I mean like from South Asia, from China, Korea, and from the Middle East and North Africa. 7.5% Hispanic, 6.5% Asian, 5.5% white, mixed, and then unknown. Okay? So now looking at that, 65% of the students here at University Park are white. Is it a fair? How do you feel about we're showing all these photos of black and brown people?
Sorry, I have like two minds about this. There are times when I feel like a little bit more cynical, or like you said earlier, snarky about it, because it's a joke that's made oftentimes about like colleges in general, of just like how, you know, on the brochure it's like there's an Asian guy, there's a black girl, there's an et cetera, because they're, you know, trying to put this, you know, foot forward of diversity. But if you look at statistics, you see that. But then, you know, I try to remind myself, like, there's a reason why they're like that, and it's a good thing that those brochures are trying to attract different kinds of people and try to be less cynical about it.
Okay.
It's not just like them being empty and being like trying to be PC, but it's them hopefully
Yes.
making a genuine effort to provide opportunities
Dude.
to all sorts of people and to
Awesome.
make all sorts of people feel comfortable in all sorts of places.
Okay, and I like that. And Annabelle, let me remind you of how you felt snarky the other day with two white people. So if they were all white people up here, you as a black woman, Afro-Caribbean woman, you'd probably be getting a little bit snarky too. Like, yo, man. So it's like, oh, you know, like Penn State or whatever. Oh, you're just putting these images up. But then suddenly, that's like, yeah, I mean, it's like a no-win situation, right? Oh, you're just putting the images up and like, because you want to portray it in a certain way. All right, good. MFers, we won't do any. We'll just put a whole bunch of white people up there. It's like, oh, no, you can't do that. So there's a no-win. And in a way, there's a no-win around a lot of this stuff, right? We're really sort of stuck. Here, let me show you the next couple more numbers here. So in Pennsylvania, 75% of Pennsylvania is white. It's a very white state. It's not as white as Wyoming and Montana, but it's a very white state. And the black population of Pennsylvania is 12.2 versus the U.S., which is about 12.8. So mind you, black students are really underrepresented here at Penn State. And so are Hispanic students are far more underrepresented from the perspective of the United States. But from the perspective of PA, maybe not so much, right? So that changes things. Because, you know, it says Penn State University. So it's like, all right, there's a lot of white people in Pennsylvania, the state in which Penn State University is located. Like, okay. And look, white people in the U.S., we're about 60% at this point. Like, yeah, all right. So there you go. The representation starts to really matter. Let me show you one more thing that's actually interesting. Check this out. Now, one thing I hear, especially Sammy, you'll hear this a lot from black students and Hispanic students, or students of color, is that Penn State is so white. But a very large number of people are coming from areas where there are higher percentages or populations of people of color. Look, if you're coming from Philly, there's 41% black, and you come up to Penn State, there's 5.5% black. That doesn't mean that Penn State is so white. It's like, yeah, Penn State's white, but Philly's so black. It's like, damn, man, it's not that we're so white, it's just that Philly's so black. If you weren't in Philly, if you were in a place, you know, grew up in a place that was 12.2% black, if that's where you were coming from to go to Penn State, it wouldn't seem so white here. So it's part of it is where you come from. In New York City, Hispanics in Northern Virginia, 20% Asian. So you get that, right? So you hear students of color complain a lot about this, but I'm like, well, a lot of y'all are just coming from somewhere that's exceptionally colorful. Wait, am I allowed to say that?
Yeah.
Of course I am. All right. Any final thoughts? Any final thoughts on that, on what I just said there? Because that's how I want you to respond. And the next time you hear a black person or a brown person complain about Penn State being so white, ask them. Here's what you do. Ask them, where are you from? And then see what they say. Any final comments about?
The thing that I think is really funny is, like, you know, comparing relative experiences. Like, you're just comparing it to where you've been before. For me, like, Penn State's very white, but it's a lot more colorful than the school that I went to.
Yeah,
and
totally.
I think that's really funny. Like, Yeah, no, I've been around more black people and I've made more black friends in like the past week than I have in like my 18 years living here. And I think it's really funny.
Where'd you go to State High?
I went to Delta.
Oh, to Delta, right?
yeah.
Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah. Those are just like the. Yeah. I got you. I love Delta. All right, Delta's the alternative school for people like Annabelle, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the cool kids, by the way. Cool kids. Do you have any final comments? Any final thoughts? Let me ask you, how was it to volunteer? Because you're now going to do an advertisement for other people. Like, how was it being up here?
It wasn't that bad. I did not volunteer.
I volunteered you.
Before class, he came up to me. I was sitting over there, and he said, "Hey, do you want to do this?" And I was like, "Okay."
Yeah, and you did.
So, yeah, not that bad.
It's cool, right? So there are no right and wrong answers. There's nothing. It's all good. It's just a nice, yeah. Hey, thanks, man. Thanks.